Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. Coach Steve Kerr's history with the Golden State Warriors is a successful one, and Kerr made it to the U.S. national team thanks to his excellent work with the Warriors. But at the moment, Coach Steve Kerr doesn't want to renew his contract with the Warriors, and it seems the winning streak will end after the 2025-2026 season. Coach Steve Kerr appears to have no interest in signing a new contract with the Warriors, suggesting this will be the famed coach's last season. Steve Kerr is expected to leave the Warriors in 2026. Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr's future with the team has been a topic of discussion in NBA circles as he enters the final year of his contract, with no talks of an upcoming extension. Warriors GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. says that decision is entirely up to Kerr, as the veteran coach will take things 1 year at a time before committing to a new deal. This recent revelation strikes some as odd, potentially hinting that Kerr could be open to coaching a new team in the near future, as ESPN's Anthony Slater noted, per the Hoop Collective. For him to not only say, "I wasn't surprised," he said, "I'm not concerned and I'm not going to let it become a storyline." But the fact that he said, "I'm not even going to seek one and we're going to wait and see until next summer," that raised the eyebrow a little bit, especially because we all know Steph has 2 more years on his deal, Slater said. Jimmy Butler has 2 more years on his deal. Draymond Green has 1 and 1. He has a player option, but basically 2 more years on his deal. And the presumption was he would want it lined up with that. Is Steve Kerr planning his Warriors exit in 2026? As Warriors head coach Steve Kerr continues his last-minute lineup tweaks ahead of the 2025-26 campaign, he's got a talented top-heavy rotation to play with. Kerr guiding Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, all of whom are under contract through 2027, the 2-year window that includes Al Horford, whom the Warriors recently signed for 2 seasons, was expected to be the plan. Still, Kerr hasn't made any short-term commitment beyond this upcoming season. He clarified with me that he will not leave the Warriors for another NBA job. He's not leaving it open-ended because the Spurs are appealing to him, Slater said. It's going to either be they get to the end of the season and maybe it's step away from the game, or what I think is more likely, and he's kind of hinting, it's he still thinks he'll very likely be the coach of the Warriors beyond this season. But it just has to go right, and it has to feel right after the season. Kerr and the Warriors will host the Clippers in their preseason finale on Friday. Jonathan Kuminga is making his problematic fit with the Warriors crystal clear. Jonathan Kuminga still doesn't fit very well with the Golden State Warriors. Jonathan Kuminga eventually re-signed with the Golden State Warriors, even though he clearly wanted to be traded. And through his first couple of preseason games back with Golden State, he looked just like he was destined to, slightly out of place and wanting to do more. ESPN's Tim Bontemps and Anthony Slater recently spoke about it. "I would say the first 2 games for Jonathan have been kind of a good example of the good and bad, in terms of what he can do," said Bontemps. Okay, first game, not as great. Second game, playing 18-ish minutes off the bench. Feels kind of like what the role is gonna be. Has shown some flashes, good and bad. He's overpassing. This is the challenge for him," said Slater. "And this is why it's not that great of a roster fit. It's he wants to spread his playmaking wings and his primary creation wings, but he knows the coaching staff doesn't want it. Well, and it's also just not needed on this team, which is the problem," said Bontemps. "Which he knows. It's why he was kind of trying not to be on this team," said Slater. "Not kind of," said Bontemps. "What is wrong with Jonathan Kuminga on the Warriors?" "Kuminga doesn't fit with what the Warriors want to do. He simply doesn't. It's not because he can't impact winning, and it's not because he's untalented, it's because he wants more. He didn't want to join the Sacramento Kings because he'd have a better chance to win a championship. He wanted to join the Kings so he could play more minutes and have a larger role. That's what he wanted. That's probably what he still wants. The Warriors just don't have the right situation for him to do that. Stephen Curry will lead the way, Jimmy Butler will have the ball a ton, and outside of that, they have a lot more talent. Unfortunately for Kuminga, he's not great enough to play alongside Curry and match the Warriors' style to earn more minutes than he's gotten up to this point. Golden State just doesn't want to lean into his skills. But now, he and the Warriors are going to have to learn to coexist. It just may not look too pretty throughout the season, and he could end up being benched some nights if they don't like what he's bringing to the game. The Kuminga situation has been patched up for the time being, but it most certainly is not solved. Golden State Warriors stunned fans by cutting Bolden and Kinsey just before NBA season tip-off. Warriors make roster moves ahead of NBA season. As the NBA regular season approaches, the Golden State Warriors find themselves in the midst of final roster adjustments. Just days before the season's tip-off, the franchise made headlines by waiving two players, Marques Bolden and Tavian Kinsey. The announcement came through a press release, signaling the end of their tenure with the team, albeit temporarily, as both players are likely headed to the G League. Bolden's journey through the league. Marques Bolden, a highly touted five-star recruit from Duke, has struggled to meet the expectations that surrounded him since his high school days. The 6'10" center has seen limited action in the NBA, appearing in just 18 regular season games across stints with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Milwaukee Bucks, and Charlotte Hornets. During the Warriors' preseason, Bolden participated in 2 games, logging 11 minutes of playing time where he managed to score 9 points and grab 4 rebounds. While his performance showed flashes of potential, it ultimately wasn't enough to secure a spot on the team's roster as they finalized their lineup for the upcoming season. Kinsey's undrafted path. In contrast, Tavian Kinsey's journey to this point has been less conventional. The 6'5" guard went undrafted after a standout career at Marshall University in 2023. Since entering the league, Kinsey has signed multiple contracts with the Utah Jazz but has yet to make his NBA debut. This preseason, Kinsey suited up for 3 games with the Warriors, but he found it difficult to make an impact, totaling 13 minutes on the court without scoring. His lack of production, combined with the Warriors' roster needs, led to his release. Roster implications and future moves. With the waiving of Bolden and Kinsey, the Warriors now have 2 open spots on their 21-man preseason roster. However, it remains unclear whether the team plans to fill these vacancies. Any potential signings at this stage would likely follow the pattern of previous moves. Players might be signed only to be waived shortly thereafter, allowing them to join the Santa Cruz Warriors in the G League. As the Warriors prepare for the upcoming season, the spotlight will remain on their roster decisions and the development of their current players. With the season just around the corner, all eyes will be on how these changes impact the team's dynamics and performance in the months to come. Warriors respond to Giannis trade rumors after ESPN bombshell. Stephen Curry with 28 points versus Portland Trail Blazers. Giannis Antetokounmpo has long been linked to the Golden State Warriors as a dream trade target, the kind of superstar who could extend the franchise's dynasty beyond the Stephen Curry era. But following ESPN's recent bombshell that Antetokounmpo prefers the New York Knicks as his destination outside Milwaukee, there appears to be a subtle shift in the Warriors' internal thinking. I've talked to Warriors people in the aftermath, because the league was talking about Sham's story and the revelations of it in the aftermath, and they poured cold water on the idea that there were some hot Giannis destinations, ESPN's Anthony Slater said on the Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective podcast. Still, Slater reminded fans that this isn't the first time Golden State has downplayed trade speculation. They were kind of pouring cold water on the Jimmy Butler idea around this time last year, he added. And then they went 12-3 out of the gates. I was like, this team's fine. The Knicks and Bucks had an exclusive trade window in August, according to ESPN's Shams Charania, but that opportunity has closed. With New York now out of its exclusive phase, the market for Antetokounmpo could reopen, giving Golden State and other suitors a potential path to enter the sweepstakes, if the Bucks star pushes for a trade. Warriors' aging core and future picks could tempt Milwaukee. Golden State's appeal lies not just in its legacy but also in its future trade assets. The franchise has up to 4 tradable first-round picks, along with young talent and expiring contracts that could make a deal financially and competitively viable. If you were the Bucks, for example, the Warriors have a pretty appealing future, their future picks are pretty appealing because it's going to be the post-Steph Curry era, Slater said. Those could be very good picks. So I think they could get in the mix, but my vibe from them is there's not some strong belief or plan that this is going to happen. Right now, the Warriors' focus is on the present. Internally, it's about this Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Al Horford aged foursome trying to make one or two last competitive runs here, Slater added. If the Giannis thing were to materialize, if he directed himself there, I think that's an important part of this. Windhorst, league bracing for Giannis trade request. ESPN's Brian Windhorst added more fuel to the fire last week, suggesting Antetokounmpo's latest comments hint at an imminent trade request. Antetokounmpo just gave you the answer to that question, Windhorst said on ESPN's First Take. He said 6 or 7 months. He didn't just pull that number out of thin air, he thought very carefully about how long it was until the end of the season. And what he basically said there is, I'm going to give it another evaluation at the end of the season. Windhorst believes the writing may already be on the wall for Milwaukee. It is very clear to the whole league that Giannis's situation in Milwaukee is probably short-term, he said. Could they surprise the league this year and have a great run in the Eastern Conference? Sure. But while everybody's being respectful, the league is preparing for the end of Giannis's tenure in Milwaukee. Giannis adds to the uncertainty. When asked directly about the Knicks rumors, Antetokounmpo didn't exactly shut them down. I think I've communicated with my teammates and the people I respect that the moment I step on this court or in this facility, the rest does not matter, Antetokounmpo said. Now, if in 6-7 months I change my mind, I think that's human too. You're allowed to make any decision you want. Those words have sent shockwaves through Milwaukee, echoing the tone of a superstar already weighing his options. For now, the Knicks may be leading the race, but the Warriors are lurking, armed with assets, experience, and a legacy that could entice the two-time MVP if he decides to look west instead of east. Warriors already have a Quinton Post problem that could crush Al Horford. The defensive end is still an issue. Quinton Post's three-point shooting has again been showcased throughout the first 4 preseason games, but unfortunately for he and the Golden State Warriors, improvements elsewhere in his game haven't been so evident. Post was monstered at times in the first half by fellow second-year center Donovan Clingan, leading to more question marks for the Warriors heading into the season and potential concern for an over-reliance on veteran big man Al Horford. Quinton Post's minutes might be limited to start the season. Clingan's size was a huge problem for the Warriors on both ends of the floor, and particularly for Post, who struggled to keep the former 7th overall pick off the glass. Clingan had 10 points and 9 rebounds in just 11 first-half minutes on Tuesday night, finishing with 7 offensive boards as Portland beat Golden State 18-11 in that area after a 23-9 differential in their first preseason meeting last week. On the other hand, Post did knock down 3 triples and had 16 points, while also finishing as a team-high plus 16 in just under 20 minutes. It certainly wasn't all bad for the 25-year-old who continues to be an offensive threat after shooting a team-high 40.8% from beyond the arc in his rookie year. The defensive issues continue though. Post had 5 fouls in his limited time off the bench, with smaller Trailblazers regularly able to finish over him at the rim aside from one major block in the second half. The former 52nd overall pick also had 3 turnovers, which isn't ideal for someone who should be primarily a catch-and-shoot threat on offense. Tracy Jackson-Davis gave the Warriors a rebounding edge in the second half, recording 4 offensive boards of his own and 10 total rebounds all in the second half. The third-year big also had 7 points and 3 assists, providing a major argument for a rotation role entering the season despite the lack of spacing he provides. The Warriors desperately need to find quality minutes out of Post and/or Jackson-Davis, not only to help them win games but to also manage Horford and ensure he doesn't have to play too much during the regular season. With Jackson-Davis' offensive limitations and a lack of evident improvement thus far in Post's rebounding and defense, there are concerns that remain on Golden State's center rotation entering the season. Is Post going to be able to step in and prove capable as a starter on nights Horford is resting? Can he hold up in the 18 to 20 minutes he plays off the bench? These are questions that are still forefront of mind for Steve Kerr, with the hope that the Warriors don't have to over-rely on Horford to the point where he's physically crushed by the time the playoffs roll around.